70 million acres of wide-open possibilities. Nevada is untouched. A place where the desert comes to life, the ground holds the history, and nature perseveres.
These stones take off and wander around the surface of this playa. They don't sit still.
I cracked the mystery of the moving rocks at Death Valley National Park.
That was the only thing that survived the 1923 fire.
I find pure history gold in Goldfield, Nevada.
Welcome to the crown jewel of Las Vegas.
I get lost in the glitter gulch of the Las Vegas Neon Museum.
I remember the moment I first saw Saturn myself in my backyard. It's just magical.
It is.
And at the Red Rock Canyon, I discover the bright skies beyond the neon lights.
With one of the most spectacular views.
I'm John Burke. Join me as I explore the 7th largest state in the nation, here on Outdoor Nevada. The Earth's deserts contain some of nature's last great mysteries. At Death Valley, the legendary sailing stones have fascinated and perplexed scientists for more than a century, until today.
I want you to meet Jim Norris. He's an engineer and an all-around really smart guy. Thanks for meeting me in the middle of nowhere, sir.
My pleasure. It's hard to get people to come this far out.
Now, we're at a place called the Racetrack. Give me a little more orientation. How big is this? What's it all about?
Racetrack is a dried up lake. It's a big flat surface, about 2.5, 3 miles long, a couple miles wide, shaped like a kidney. And it's so flat that the grade from one end to the other is just a couple of inches.
The racetrack rests in a dry lake bed, a geological formation known as a playa. Playas form when evaporation exceeds water flow in a depression that receives regular precipitation. The salty and brittle composition of the land becomes soft like clay when moisture is present.
Now, here on the racetrack, there has been a mystery for a long time. What has that mystery been?
Well, there's some stones out here that really didn't get the message. And these stones take off and wander around the surface of this playa. They don't sit still. And this is flat and level, and we're all wondering, why would they do that?
Jim and his cousin Richard Norris were the perfect pair of researchers to crack this mystery, with backgrounds in engineering and biology, respectively. Together, they head up the Slithering Stones Research Initiative, a think tank of brilliant minds dedicated to solving the conundrum of the racetrack.
What were some of the theories that people had before we figured this out?
Well, they really range. They range from the crazy to the probable. And the crazy were things like aliens, magnetism, tilting playas, vibrations on the playa. And we were pretty sure it wasn't those. The more likely ones were wind combined with rain, and some people were suggesting ice was involved.
Here's the big question. How do they move?
What happens to get these stones to be able to move is a series of very rare events come together. The first is we get a heavy rainfall in the wintertime out here. It's not unheard of, but it doesn't happen very often. And when we get that, we get a pool forms on this whole lake. Shallow pool, maybe an inch or two deep. Then winter nights are cold, and we get the surface of the pool freezes. There's a sheet of ice, and it's huge. It's many square miles of ice here. The next morning, almost every day out here is clear. The sun comes out, and it starts to thaw the ice. The ice starts to break up, and then the very common afternoon winds blow, and these great big sheets of ice start floating around on this very shallow pool. And if one of those floating pieces of ice runs into a rock, it will start pushing it slowly across the playa.
Yeah, and then you've got a wind. How strong is that wind?
Well, the ice is floating. That's always really important to understand. It's this ice that's afloat. It's like an iceberg. But the winds that are blowing it are only 5 or 8 miles an hour.
Fascinating.
It doesn't take much wind because these panels of ice are huge. And when they're that large, even a gentle wind will get them floating across the pool.
How fast do they go?
About as slow as baby crawling, a few inches a second.
And is that why, part of the reasons why that people could not figure it out, because it was happening so slowly?
That was exactly what the problem was. This is such a slow process that unless you're really focused on a specific stone and you have a way of telling that it's moving, and that's hard when it's 100 yards away from you, unless you know that you're watching for something slow like this, you won't catch it. And we're sure that people were actually here when it happened before and just didn't realize that it was happening in front of them.
And how far can they go?
I think the longest track I've heard of that we found out here is 1,600 feet.
How big are these rocks?
Up to 700 pounds.
700 pounds, and they're moving that far?
Well, I'm not sure that they're moving, the big ones move that far. I think they move much less frequently, but there's certainly stones that are taking long rides out here.
And you thought this whole process to figure it out was going to take about 10 years?
We thought probably 10 or more. We were hoping it would take 10 or more camping trips.
And how long did it take?
2 years.
2 years to figure it out.
2 years.
You got to feel pretty good about that.
We got lucky.
Sometimes luck needs a helping hand. Along with the perfect timing, Jim and Richard's experiment succeeded thanks to a few delicately altered scientific instruments. Rocks.
We wanted to have some rocks that we put out here that had GPSs in it. And we asked the Park Service if we could use stones that were known to move. And they're very protective of those stones. So they asked us to find rocks that were outside of the park that we would turn into our GPS stones. We located those about 20 miles away from here, set up our stones with the GPSs, brought them out here and hiked them out onto the playa, about 800 pounds of rocks.
That's when you know you got good friends, right?
Indeed.
Hikers should avoid walking on the racetrack after rainy days. When wet, the surface on the playa becomes very soft and delicate. Footprints can scar the land for years.
I want to thank you for cracking the case. I also want to thank you for taking time to meet me out here today and explain this to everybody. Thank you so much, buddy.
John, it's been a pleasure.
With scientific wit and determination, the case has been closed on another of nature's mysteries. But somehow, the truth seems even more wondrous than any fantasy we could have ever imagined.
Nature's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it can really play tricks on us, but even though the mystery has been solved, you still have to come here and see this for yourself. It's that special. Welcome to Goldfield, Nevada, population 300, give or take a few. And while the number of residents is small, its storied history is rather large.
Goldfield, Nevada, a place of fortune in the early 20th century, now a historic treasure for the Silver State.
Hey, Alan, I just want to say thanks for taking time to meet me here today. I've always heard about this town, and I'm so excited to learn about it.
A Nevada history buff, Alan Metcher founded the Central Nevada Historical Society with his brothers in 1977.
Tell me about Goldfield. First of all, the name. Did it get its name because there was gold in them thar hills?
Oh yeah, and a lot of it too. A lot of gold.
When did this happen?
That was late 1902. The initial discovery of gold was said to be a fisherman was a Native American, and he evidently found some gold over here behind Columbia Mountain.
Following the natives' lead, miners Stimler and Marsh made 3 claims on the north ridge of the mountain. They named the new mining district Grandpa before it officially became the town of Goldfield in 1903.
So 1902 comes along, Goldfield is pretty much born, and then people just flocked here, didn't they?
Oh, by the dozens, by the
Tens of thousands.
tens of thousands, because the Goldfield's population did get up to well over 20,000.
And it was all kinds of people.
Oh, businessmen, promoters, speculators, barkeepers, prostitutes, the whole gamut.
The whole gamut. How many of the original buildings are still here?
Well, I'll put it this way, 90% of the original buildings are gone.
Wow. Which ones are still here?
4-story Goldfield Hotel, brick and stone building, the courthouse, the firehouse, and the old Goldfield High School.
Let's go back to the hotel because you have a story about that being haunted.
Oh, yes, and I'll give some credits to one story, and it came from my grandmother, who was a maid in the Goldfield Hotel, 1915, 1916. She came to work in the morning, and she was walking down the hallway, and she knew Mr. Finley. He was an employee at the hotel. His door was opened as she walked down, and he was standing there. And she said, I said, "Good morning, Mr. Finley." Later went on down and was talking to the desk clerk. And the desk clerk said, "Too bad about Finley, isn't it?" And she said, "Well, what do you mean? I just saw him a little while ago." Desk clerk said, "You couldn't have. He committed suicide last night."
Shivers. I got the shivers.
The Goldfield Hotel outlasted multiple fires until its final reconstruction in 1908. Listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the hotel housed officers of the Tonopah-based Army Air Forces during World War II and is currently a hot spot for paranormal activity.
Tell me about what Main Street was like and what happened to it.
Oh, bustling place. South Main, that was designated for the red light district. Further up in the end was the Goldfield Brewing Company. North Main Street, businesses of any kind you could think of almost. And extending on down there for 25 blocks at least.
And what happened to it?
Well, 1923, it said that a whiskey still blew up, or it was sabotaged to the bootlegger that was making the whiskey here right behind us. And on that day in 1923, terrific wind out of the south. From the fire here, the ashes, embers, sparks blowing on down north and wound up taking out over 20 city blocks. That fire did.
The 1923 Main Street fire claimed 23 blocks and 2 lives. A year later, a second fire furthered the damages. The tragedies were the death knell for Goldfield as a big city.
Tell me about this intersection. This was a hot spot.
Oh yeah, this was the corner of Crook Avenue and Main Street. And across the street here on the left, you had a saloon. Off to on the right-hand side was the Mohawk Saloon. Had the Hermitage Saloon right over here behind me. And over on this side, we had the National Club and the Northern Saloon.
It's just like New York City.
New York City, it was a busy area during the boom days.
And one of the bars was specifically long, wasn't it?
It was known as the longest bar in Nevada, and it was right up in that direction. You can see the stone front still there. That was the only thing that survived the 1923 fire.
Crime ran rampant on Main Street, and any desire was never far from reach, especially a bottle of whiskey. But here in Goldfield, as history melts away, the new springs out of the ground.
Okay, so this is unique, not exactly what I was expecting, but that's the state of Nevada. It's not always about history, sometimes it's about curiosities. What is this?
Well, it's now known as the Car Forest.
When did this get put in here?
Oh, I think back approximately 2007, 2008, when a fellow by the name of Mark Rippey began digging holes and burying cars, and it just seems like they sprung out of the ground.
Although Mark Rippey erected the nearly 40-vehicle car forest, it was Chad Sork, a local artist from Reno, who gave the cars an individual identity.
I want to thank you for spending the day with me. I learned a lot and I've had a lot of fun.
Well, you're welcome and my pleasure.
Today, Goldfield stands as a fragment of the once promising and indulgent town that shaped Nevada's mining boom. It's a trip down memory lane where rich stories and curiosities keep on calling for adventure. Though much of the Las Vegas Strip has been rebuilt with themed hotels, designer towers, and cutting-edge technology, when most people imagine the city, their thoughts return to the golden age of Elvis, the Rat Pack, and those stunning neon lights.
Las Vegas is a city that's constantly changing, reinventing itself. Got to maintain that excitement, that glitter. And that's great, but what happens to the history of this city? Like those old neon signs that made it famous. They come here, to the Neon Museum.
The Neon Museum was founded in 1996 as a nonprofit organization to preserve a piece of Las Vegas history. After years assembling the initial collection, the museum opened its doors to the public in 2012.
I want you to meet Rob McCoy. He is the CEO of the Neon Museum here, and not only that, he's just a really great guy. Nice seeing you this morning.
Welcome to the crown jewel of Las Vegas.
Wow, the crown jewel.
The crown jewel.
How long has the crown jewel been here?
As a fully operating museum, it's a little over 4 years, but the collection itself actually started forming about 20 years ago.
And let's talk about that. Where are these signs gravitating from?
Well, almost all of the signs in the collection are either from the Las Vegas Strip or Fremont Street, or as we've always called it, Glitter Gulch.
History comprises the entirety of the museum, starting with its facade. This structure used to be the lobby of the La Concha Motel, constructed in 1961 by architect Paul Revere Williams. Saved from demolition, it now serves as the gateway to the Neon Boneyard, where Old Vegas returns to life.
This is like no other place I've ever been to. Just exactly how many pieces do you have here?
We have about 600 artifacts in our collection. Not all of them are right here. We have a north gallery where we have some stored, and then we actually have some signs that have never been seen that are in storage that we're probably going to bring out here in another year or so.
Do you have a favorite out of 600?
Oh boy, John. If I had to guess, it would probably be the Silver Slipper, which sits right outside our visitor center.
Why do you like that one so much?
Well, I remember it as a child. I grew up here, and it sat on the strip at the Silver Slipper Gambling Hall, and it revolved, and it's iconic. It was the only one ever created like this in the world.
Well, you've got so much great stuff here. Let's take a stroll and take a closer look.
Super.
First unveiled in France by Georges Cloud in 1910, neon began its life as a form of illumination. Exploding in popularity in the United States, neon lights soon became an art form known as streamline or American Deco. The style is often simple and direct, but also iconic and beautiful.
So this is the Moulin Rouge sign, a significant historical importance to Southern Nevada. This was the first racially integrated casino in Las Vegas. It opened in 1955, only stayed open for a short period of time, and then of course Las Vegas became racially integrated.
This does not spell Moulin Rouge then.
You're very observant. We took a little creative license. It is Las Vegas after all, and we rearranged the letters and it says "In Love." And this has become a great spot for brides. They love to have their pictures taken here, and also weddings.
I am struck by the size. You forget how big these signs were.
Yeah, they're very large. You know, we had neon across the United States, but nobody did it to this scale like Las Vegas did.
Leave it to Las Vegas.
Designed by legendary artist Betty Willis, the Moulin Rouge sign marks the beginning of the end of the segregation era in Las Vegas. Willis's substantial contribution for the visual landscape of the city of neon lights peaked in 1959 with the creation of the "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign. Without a trademark, the artist considers the sign her gift to the city.
You know what's interesting about these signs? A lot of them are so visual, but every now and then you find one and you read it, and it tells you a whole story. You know this was on the edge of town. Look at this. Mini Mart, snacks, cold drinks, film, free aspirin, tender sympathy. Oh, Vegas. Restoring these is not a simple process, and it's expensive, is it?
It's very expensive, and it's not a simple process. There's a lot of breakage with neon, and you can see that. Tubing breaks. It's somewhat fragile. The technology for neon actually has not changed over the last century. It's bending glass tubes, putting the gas in, and then electrifying it.
I could ask you the value of some of these signs, but in truth, they're priceless.
Yeah, you can't put a price tag on it. For example, the Stardust sign, which is the largest sign not only in our collection, but was probably the largest sign ever erected in Las Vegas and the United States. When the Boyd family gave us the sign, it had to be cut into multiple pieces and moved to us. Just moving that sign was $250,000.
The Stardust Resort and Casino stood strong on the Las Vegas Strip for 48 years. The sign and its 11,000 flashing bulbs illuminated the city skies until 2006, when the iconic resort was imploded in spectacular fashion.
So Rob, this is the first piece? This is the beginning of the museum?
Yeah, it really is. This is the Aladdin's lamp from the Aladdin Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. And it's really almost as iconic as the silver slipper. It's one of a kind.
You know, when I came here today, I thought Rob is really a curator of Las Vegas history, but now I realize you are the curator of some very important American history. How does that feel to you?
Well, you know, really, this museum tells not only a lot about Las Vegas, it does tell a lot about 20th century America. Bigger, bolder, brasher, and then of course Las Vegas took it to a whole different level.
Rob, thank you so much for your time today. I've had a blast.
Great, thank you, John. Enjoy the Boneyard.
You know I can.
From little motels to the grand Stardust and the classic Riviera, Las Vegas and its shimmering lights welcomed millions of guests. The Neon Museum brings new life to the personal accounts of so many people and all the memories they once created here at the live entertainment capital of the world.
Everybody knows in Las Vegas that you can see a glitzy show and maybe a star or two, but here in Red Rock Canyon, just down the road a spill, when the sun goes down, well, you get to see a whole different kind of show. And trust me, it's out of this world.
The legendary lights of Las Vegas create a spectacle unmatched anywhere in the world. A dome of light that can be seen for 200 miles in all directions. But there's something you can't see in the city that's even more breathtaking.
Yeah, I want you to meet Greg. He's the president of the Las Vegas Astronomical Society. Nice seeing you, Greg.
Nice to see you too.
Hey, tell me about your club.
Well, the club started in the early 80s. We have about 140 active members and about 2,500 followers that follow us on our Facebook page.
And you guys meet a lot. Tell me about that.
We meet once a month at the College of Southern Nevada's Cheyenne campus in the planetarium.
Greg McKay and the Astronomical Society have shared their love of astronomy for over 35 years. They provide not only information, but the tools and technology needed for those wanting to explore the undiscovered country.
How'd you get into this?
I got into it when I was about 11 or 12 years old. I found a telescope in my parents' attic and dusted the cobwebs off of it, and was observing the moon for a couple of nights and was about to commit the telescope back to the cobwebs and saw this bright object rising above my neighbor's house. And I pointed the telescope at it, and it was Saturn. And seeing Saturn in this little bitty tiny telescope, and I was hooked from that day forward.
I remember the moment I first saw Saturn myself in my backyard. It's just magical.
It is.
Most people miss out on the joy of seeing a celestial body and don't even realize it. Astronomers today estimate that light pollution prevents the visibility of the Milky Way across over 80% of the Earth's landmass. If you want to see the heavens, you're going to need help from the experts.
Well, you know, we're really fortunate. Even though we live right here in Las Vegas, it seems like the light pollution capital of the world. You only have to drive 15 or 20 minutes outside of the city limits to get to beautiful places like Red Rock here and have just fantastic views of the night sky.
What are some of the things that people would see tonight if they came out?
Well, telescope is pointing at Venus right now. Everybody's had a chance to take a peek at Venus, and we're impressed with that. We've got the moon up tonight. There's a few other brighter nebulas and galaxies and stuff that are visible even from, this close to the city.
The Las Vegas Astronomical Society holds some impressive celestial shindigs. The monthly star parties are open to the public, allowing rookie stargazers to dip their toes into the cosmic ocean. The last few meetups have hosted more than 2,000 attendees.
I get a thrill every single night I set this telescope up, even if it's just in my backyard and I'm looking at something that I've looked at 1,000 times before, just to know that I'm looking at it, right then and right there, and it's not a picture in a book, it's not on the internet, it's just the real thing.
Can I see Venus?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna take a look.
Take a look.
Yep, she's still there. Everything's good. Everything's good.
With one view, just like that, I'm a kid again, discovering space for the first time. The Society's work to preserve that feeling of youthful wonder in the world all comes together with a simple glance at the night sky.
Greg, I know you got a society to look after, but I just want to take a second to say thanks for having us out tonight.
Our pleasure.
All right, we're going to take a second and just let the sky get dark, let the stars come out, and then we're going to see what we can see.
Besides Venus, I take a look at Mars and Jupiter. I get to see globular clusters and nebulas that shine faintly over the valley lights. On the hunt to spot my next celestial body, I see Orion and his sword. Of the 7 stars that compose the constellation, all of them are among the most distant stars that can be seen with the naked eye. Orion shines 1,344 light years from the Earth, and it will keep its shape long after most other constellations.
You know, an interesting thing happened tonight. When I was looking up at the stars, it was like I became a kid again in my backyard. And I guess that's a good reminder for me, and I hope it is for you too. To enjoy the best parts of Nevada, sometimes you just gotta look up.
Support for Outdoor Nevada comes from Jaguar Land Rover Las Vegas and Jaguar Land Rover Reno, inspiring the spirit of adventure with confidence in any terrain or conditions. Information at jlrlv.com or jlrreno.com.